Good morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's Friday Fix on what is a glorious day in the capital. I'm
Rain
currently.
has sprung.
It really has. There's no
Mm.
guesses where I'm currently based. I'm making the most of the courtyard. Got a cigar en route to me right now. But more importantly, more importantly for the listeners, it's the Friday Fix. It's the roundup of the week with the amazing AlphaPicks guys. But before we do, I better get the legals out the way because I can see Michael Brown just waiting for me to mess up on this. So as usual, nothing discussed on the Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PiQ Global Limited, Trades PiQ or PiQ Suite, or indeed the hosts, which as you know by now is Alex and Jay from AlphaPicks and myself, Ryan. Good afternoon, gents.
Good afternoon. Do you know what I was thinking?
Go
As I
on.
was getting a morning coffee this morning and the sun was out and whatever, I was walking past people and I was like, can we appreciate that some of these people aren't aware? They're going about their lives, enjoying the sunshine, and they're not aware of the route that's going on in the Nasdaq. They're not aware of the moves we're seeing in the bull market. They're not aware of the implications of the ECB yesterday. They're just out there enjoying a sunny Friday.
Yeah, what a life to live, just not being aware of all these things. Completely, not a care in the world.
Not a care in the world. And look, that's the role we play. As it's like sometimes that's what we have to deal with. We have to shoulder the heavy burdens for
Yeah, someone's got to do it.
non-financial retards. Yeah.
Exactly right.
But
But before we crack on, we need to kind of get this out of the way.
yes.
Trump yesterday saying he doesn't look at the stock market. What do we think about that?
Followed up by the comments of who's tanking the stock market.
Yeah,
It's the globalists.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Everyone knows that. It's the globalists, man.
And I don't know if it was just me, but I'm like, globalist? Like, I mean, what does globalist even mean? Are we globalists?
I tell you what, though, I found my new excuse when I wake up hungover.
Well, it's
It
the
was
globalist fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was that globalist who bought you that extra shot. That's what did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we may as well start on Trump. That's a great place
Yes,
to
go
start
on.
for this week because we have had a bit of everything from him. I wanted to talk in terms of specifically with Trump. I want to talk about the crypto strategic reserve.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about obviously the imposition of tariffs on Tuesday, followed by auto exemptions later in the week and chatter of agricultural exemptions coming forward.
Yeah.
And but part of it is that, and I think you posted one of these memes about Trump and the art of the deal when he
Yeah.
winds back some of these
More jobs,
funds.
art of the deal. More jobs, art of the deal.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because it's actually what I wrote about and put out this morning on the hit list in terms of agriculture, autos, and metals and mining as three key sectors that are in focus with tariffs. And when you look at all three of them, agriculture, very quickly and simply, if you put and impose these tariffs, things like fertilizer, which a lot of obviously the US agriculture companies rely on from abroad, it's going to be harder to get, more expensive, yada, yada, yada. Ultimately, who's worse off with agricultural tariffs? It's the end consumer. It's whoever's buying the products on the shelves. The same with autos. You put tariffs on imports, and the figure I read, I mean, there's loads of figures being bandied around. One figure I saw was that a 25% import tax would raise the cost of a vehicle by an average of $6,250. So again, who's impacted by it? It's the end consumer. The same with like steel, aluminium. Some random statistics
I
on.
think we got to call it aluminum if we're talking about US.
Aluminum.
Yeah, that was just
Aluminum.
random. I can see Adam listening. I thought, get my Americanisms in there.
Yeah. But anyway, so to finish my point on this is that I think Trump has to be very careful, and he's obviously in some ways acknowledging this by looking at exemptions for these specific sectors. But it's like the American person on the street, whatever you want to call them, ultimately for these key sectors are going to be the ones that are going to feel the inflationary pressures.
Yeah,
and I think that's what might come back to bite Trump here.
No, completely agree.
Yeah. Also, I read that Coca-Cola cans, 25% is made from aluminium or aluminum.
Aluminum.
And so people are concerned that their price per can of Coke is going to go up. which I
I'll tell
don't
you
think is
what.
the biggest issue, but yeah.
So a good friend of mine, so it's obviously Toblerone Frank, if anyone follows him on Twitter. Very, very shrewd guy. He's ex-money markets guy back when they were doing quotes on blackboards. And I'm not joking. That's how old he is. But one of his favourite plays for a long time is Coca-Cola, but not just like Coca-Cola outright, but the canning companies behind Coca-Cola. And
Mm.
I had no idea like these were separate companies, but yeah, apparently it is, and it's a massive market.
Well, I know there's the listed in the UK on the FTSE actually is the Hellenic Bottling Company, Coca-Cola
Yeah.
HBC, who have the rights, I believe, for the entirety of Europe
Yeah,
for
these are the
Coke.
kind of plays. These are exactly the kind of plays he liked, and in the past, like he's been
Mm.
loving it. And again, it's you kind of. I just think, oh, Coca Cola, I'm long Coca Cola. There we go.
Yeah, yeah. You're like Buffett. You're picking up the billions in dividends each year, aren't you? Um, Yeah, and I had a little stat of the day to kick us
Oh,
off
go
with
on.
actually. So this was actually looking at the agriculture sector.
Right.
So a study. So last time around in 2018, when tariffs came on the agricultural sector, and obviously they then had to provide assistance because it all went a bit messy. Um, Overall, from the last round of tariffs with the agricultural sector in terms of the US versus external countries,
Right.
did the US gain in
Oh.
total notional trade from agricultural tariffs, or did it lose? And if it did gain or lose to the nearest 10 billion,
Oh,
what
come
was
on.
the
This is
net?
unfair.
Is that too crazy?
Yeah. Well, I'm
Okay,
not going to get
just
ready.
go, just go like, did the US gain or lose from
Yeah.
agricultural
I
tariffs
well,
last time round?
I'm not going to because I think they, I think they gained because I'm thinking about the China phase 1 and all that. So I'm going to say gained.
Mm.
Well,
Jay,
I'll take the other side.
thank
I
you.
got inverse Ryan.
Yeah, they lost. The
Oh,
United
okay.
States lost more than 15.6 billion in trade with retaliatory countries.
That was
Um,
that back then. 15 billion was a lot as well.
it was a lot.
Now 15 billion doesn't feel that much. Yeah, I remember. Do you know what? Side topic, but I remember during the GFC when it was all going crazy. I remember 100 million being a big number, and then we had like being bailed out for 500 million. We were sat there on the trading floor going, "Fucking hell, 500 million. That's massive." Now 500 million's a rounding error in these kind of things.
Mm, it's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, because your bonus back in the day when that hit, and that was like, what, 10 million on a bad year. I mean, those were rounding
That
errors
was
as
a
well, weren't they?
bad quarter. Bad quarter.
Bad quarter. Yeah. So anyway, so that was obviously chat on that, and the other one, which I don't think we can ignore, is obviously Trump's news sort of overnight on Trump's crypto reserve, strategic reserve, which had been mooted and obviously been spoken about for a while. Ultimately, Bitcoin actually fell about 5% in the sort of initial period after it was all chatter was done, primarily because the even though they're going to shift, so basically the reserve, which is always was my thought in my head anyway, is that they're not actually buying, they're not going to the market and buying Bitcoin.
And this is
What
the
they
crucial thing, right?
It's the crucial
Exactly
thing,
that.
isn't it? Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
surprised that I think how many people don't get this concept that essentially all of the what's the right expression, from enforcement actions
Yeah,
and proceeds of crime.
the confiscated bitcoins basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and I think that was the key thing. Was like everyone was like, a lot of people were like, well, a lot of people in crypto were like, oh my god, strategic reserves means they're going to step into the market and buy gazillions. And when in actual
Mm,
fact, all they've done is like gone, well, do you know what? We already hold. I can put out the actual details this morning in a post which I reposted. It's like out of the 100 and whatever million or of Bitcoin that they've already got, they're not even assigning all of them to the strategic reserve. They're assigning a proportion of those bitcoins to their strategic reserve. So basically,
mm,
to me, it just sounds like they're moving it from one wallet to another and saying that we
yeah.
won't sell it. There's no new capital coming to the market for it.
Mm. Yeah, I agreed. I mean, and the thing is, like, as a headline and as a chat, I think it's obviously for Trump, it fulfills a campaign pledge that he put out there quite easily. But
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. In terms of actual tangible takeaways, if you're just shifting it from one wallet to another, um, and the other line I read was that there's no imminent plans of actually increasing the size of the fund,
No.
then it's like, yeah, I can understand why Bitcoin obviously rolled over off the back of that
Well,
news
yeah,
instead
exactly
of.
that. Exactly that. It's one of those, when it's spelled out that actually we're not going to step in and buy anymore, we're just going to move them around. It's like, well, why? Yeah, all that all that bullish sentiment on the back of the strategic reserve. And don't forget, there's been bullish kind of build up since Trump. Well, even before Trump took
Mm,
office, because everyone was expecting him to do something like this. But obviously, the way he's done it is, it's incredibly disappointing for a lot of the bulls out there. But I think potentially I think this is where he had to do it, because imagine trying to get through. Imagine trying to pass legislation to actually invest in Bitcoin and set up a reserve
mm,
like that. It's going to be extremely tricky. However, saying that, well, look, we've already confiscated these, we already hold them. What we're going to do is just going to park them in a segregated account, basically. Um, you know, maybe that's how the strategic reserve will build over time. It will only be a proportion of what they confiscate.
mm. I mean, if they can't even manage to revalue the gold in Fort Knox from $42,
Yeah,
then
right.
I think Bitcoin being passed is somewhat of a further down the
Yeah,
line, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, and Jay, I don't know if you wanted to chime in. You had a perfectly timed tweet at the start of this week about wanting to fade the Bitcoin move up to 90K, which proved the case very quickly afterwards, eh?
Yeah. Well done, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, all similar thoughts to you. It kind of it didn't feel material, the announcement to warrant a move up of that much, because, like we've highlighted, it wasn't announcing any new interest and new buyers in the market.
Yeah.
So it set up for quite a nice a fade back down. But that's the same, like in the risk-off environment that most markets are in right now. A pop of that much was, yeah, it just kind of gave way to an easier trade back down. But it wasn't really a shock that Trump, who's labeled himself as like the crypto president or Bitcoin president, can't remember the exact words he said, but to put out a tweet on the weekend and include all of the other listed crypto, because it wasn't just Bitcoin, was it? He
Yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
direct the tweet of all of these other ones. So yeah, maybe he's trying to boost up the crypto market, which is, you could argue, maybe a part of a sentiment indicator of Trump's presidency, and how it's going, when we look at the
Well, and
run up
also,
following the election and maybe the sell off recently.
well, no, and also, let's be honest, it's very clear that the Trump family own a shit ton of crypto. Like, you got Eric Trump basically trying to tweet out, like, buy and sell, like kind of buy it now,
Yeah,
hold it. So yeah, it's just pumping your own book. Which, to be fair, no one else is going to pump your book. You might as well do it yourself.
yeah, that Eric Trump tweet in the week where he was like, "Oh, I'm glad, like, for those of you that bought the dip, like, you're welcome." He sounded like some guy running a Discord group rather than
Yeah, no,
the
exactly that.
start of the
Yeah,
president. It was a
exactly that.
bit cringe, but yeah.
I noticed he's gone quiet on that front since he's sold off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then, so changing lanes slightly, actually, because I actually wanted to head across to Europe, where there was some great highest levels since being popped around on the fixed income market. My favorite one was Germany bond rout worse since the fall of the Berlin Wall,
Ooh,
which I thought was a good one.
yeah,
um, when Jay was just a twinkle in his mother's eye. Um,
yeah, right.
so yeah, I think it's 1990, I think it was. So essentially, the story here was that bund yields have spiked significantly over the course of this week, because essentially the German the chancellor to be has basically said that, yeah, we're going to be absolutely pumping cash into boosting our defense
Yeah,
spending, and I believe he basically came out with borrowed old Draghi's phrase and said whatever it takes,
yeah, yeah,
in terms of boosting defense spending to guarantee Germany's sort of future, as it were.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the only way they're going to do that is by issuing a shit ton of buns. Yeah,
I mean, that's the technical term for it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah. Just harking back to my bond trading days.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. 400 billion was the figure I saw banded around as a 400
Yeah,
billion fund.
I've seen four, I've seen five, I've even seen one saying up to 1 trillion, and that was going to be like 400 to 600 in terms of uh, bunds, and then some other thing that they're going to open up, probably some other new acronym that allows them to just spend more money. Which apparently that's what the ECB are now looking at doing as well. Start up some new measure to allow them to invest in themselves, basically. So the ECB love an acronym.
Yeah, well, yeah, indeed they do. The irony of it being the ECB.
Yeah, there
But
you go.
I think the interesting thing I took away from this story was that, we know equity markets are broadly correlated around the world, but also fixed income and sort of the sovereign space is very much as well, because we saw obviously bunds kick higher that fed through, for example, here in the UK. I think the UK 10-year spiked to, well, yeah, up to levels I haven't seen for a while. Apart from the US, which the treasury market kind of like was fairly steady, but yeah, you've got this sort of global synchronized increase in sovereign yields around the world, and it's kind of like, where does that new normal come? And I
Yeah,
think, we had the situation where we had the pandemic, everything was ground zero. You then had the reflationary impact, which then saw everything skyrocket. And now we're now in that phase where it's like, actually, where should that be? And that speak to the ECB yesterday, where, they're all of a sudden, potentially looking at, easing off rate cuts from here on out.
yeah,
So, is 2.5% the new terminal rate for the ECB? I don't know. But definitely I feel that recalibration, especially when you factor in things like a huge German defense,
yeah,
fund,
yeah.
or, over in Japan, you factor in a lack of central bank intervention in their fixed income markets,
Yeah,
that this recalibration of yield, I would say, is skewed towards yields heading higher versus lower from here.
yeah. I can't disagree with you there.
Mm. So I think it's definitely an interesting story to keep our eyes on for coming weeks, on that side. And then in terms of today, definitely something I want to throw out there. Payrolls,
Oh,
unemployment
I thought you were
report from
going
the
to say.
States.
I thought you were going to say the non-farm pints that we're doing after
Well,
payrolls. But
that's
yeah, no,
that's the tee up. Yeah.
yeah.
So thoughts, opinions, what we see this
Well,
afternoon?
it's what the big. Well, I think it was you that tweeted it, wasn't it? The biggest payrolls data of our lives, which I know it's bandied out every month, but for once, it might not be too far from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, what was the stat on the tweet?
I
You put
think
it out.
1.3% implied move today, which is the highest in 2 years, off
Yeah,
a data print.
that's pretty. I mean, it's big. It is big.
Yeah, it definitely is. It
Yeah.
kind of it reminds me back at again during the floor back in the day when non-farm payroll without fail, like whatever it came out that the bund would rally 200 ticks either way. Rally 200 ticks and come off 200 ticks, come off another 200 ticks and probably end up about flat. That was like back in the day
Mm.
when every non-farm payroll was just volatile as fuck. That's another technical term. Uh, but yeah, but recently we haven't really had those those huge swings. So you know, make
Yeah.
volatility great again.
It's true. I mean, I think from my perspective, it is that, so the unemployment rate's meant to hold at 4%, which obviously was the same from last month. But last month it was actually pretty unexpected that it fell to 4%. So I think from my perspective, and given the moves we've had in the equity space, for example, this week,
Yeah,
that, even if we see unemployment drop, which I doubt it will, to 3.9, and we see a 200k plus print on headline payrolls,
yeah,
like, yes, we'll get a bit of a pop, but I kind of feel that any pop is an excuse for people to fade. And on the
yeah.
other side, if you see unemployment tick higher to 4.1, or you see an NFP print of like sub, I don't know, 120, 130, like,
Yeah.
I think the downside you could see, given how bearish people are heading
Well,
into the
this
end
is
of the
it, right?
week.
There's a lot of knees already trembling anyway, regardless. So you just get a dodgy print, and then, but like as Michael Brown said this morning, it's for God knows how long we've been like buy dips, buy dips, buy dips, but you're genuinely now looking at equities thinking sell rallies, sell rallies, sell rallies, and it's
Mm,
but the problem we have is the usual kind of the bear porn lovers out there that have been going on and you've been calling for a crash for since COVID.
mm,
They're now doing victory laps because we're off a couple of percent. It's like, come on,
mm.
guys.
It's true. Yeah,
You're
it's
still
true.
miles under. You're still miles underwater on your average short, but you can take the win.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think yeah, I know I've said it before, but I do feel this NFP and employment report I think is actually pretty big, and yeah, if you do see a nasty number, I think it could be a running for the toilet in terms of
Yeah.
when the cash open comes.
Pretty bum time.
Twitchy bum time, yeah. I don't know. Can I get a little? Can I get an NFP number out of you? I think consensus is 160. And unemployment. What are you saying?
Oh, go on, Jay.
I've also pinned Michael's at actually the 160 consensus, but ranging
Oh
from
yeah.
from 30k to 300k. So everyone's pretty clueless.
Yeah. So go on.
Um,
What's your random guess? Because let's be honest, that's all it is. It's a random guess. And I tell you what,
I'll go.
as we're seeing each other for a pint later, whoever gets closest can get the beers in.
Yeah,
So all three of us pick a number.
Yeah. Go on.
yeah.
I'll go 190.
You go
190.
190. I'll go 150.
I'm leaning in for bad news. Bad news out. I'm going to go 125.
Ooh. So see, not that bad.
Well, not that bad, but I
Oh,
think
imagine
125
if we
would
see
be
a
enough
negative
to.
Anything's
print.
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
A
I
negative
think that
print
could be
would be
enough to.
dreamy.
Yeah, and also I'm just going to throw in there's a little optional extra. I think unemployment would tick high to 4.1. Just going to throw that in
Ooh.
there. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah,
Also, as usual, remember, check the revisions.
yeah.
Always check the revisions.
Set the small print.
Exactly. Headline for show, revisions for dough.
I've never heard that before.
Sick me, kid.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot. Wonderful. So, I mean, those were pretty much all the points I wanted to run through. I don't know if anyone else has anything else you want to shout in from the week.
No, I'm good on my end, Jay.
No, I think we've covered most of it. Trump,
Nice.
tariffs, and Europe has pretty much taken the week up.
That's the show, isn't it? Really.
Mm,
Right.
And Ryan, do you want to put a little plug in for this afternoon?
Oh yes, yeah. So any London-based folks, we are quite a few of us now, by the sounds of it. We're all going to the Token House just behind Bank or the Bank of England, and from about 4:35 onwards, I'm about to have a nice bottle of wine and a cigar with a dear friend before we head over that way. But yeah, if you are about, come along. And I've got to stress though, no one's putting money behind the bar. You got to buy your own pints. I'm not buying beers. You can buy me a pint, but yeah, don't turn up with empty pockets. Put it that way.
And if anyone is walking in and like doesn't know where Ryan is or what it looks like, just look around and just find the most attractive stud of a man you can picture and go up to him and say hello, Ryan, and that's it.
Right. If you really want me to buy a pint, if you want me to buy you a pint, there's easier ways to do it than that. But I appreciate that. Right, guys, on that one, thank you so much as always, and thank you so much to the listeners, and we will see you all next week or tonight.
Yeah,
See
wonderful.
you later.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.